Good morning and welcome to the studios of the Government Information Service, the National Television Network, GIS NTN. I'm Lisa Joseph, here with the members of the media, along with the Minister with responsibility for culture and creative industries within the Ministry of Tourism, Information, Broadcasting, Culture and Creative Industries, the Senator Honorable Fortuna Belrose. This press conference has been called by the Minister to deal with recent events or development at the Events Company of St. Lucia, Inc., or as we simply refer to it as Events St. Lucia. And to members of the press, the Minister will be making a statement, after which we'll be taking questions. We do not have a time limit for questions being asked, but we would want as many of you as possible to get your questions in, so just be mindful of that. And I present to you the Minister with responsibility for culture and creative industries, Senator the Honorable Fortuna Belrose.
Thank you very much, Lisa, and of course, welcome and thank you for coming, members of the press, this morning. You know, when we began this journey, it was about the establishment of an organization, and as you know, we're talking about Events St. Lucia, Events Company of St. Lucia, which falls under the ambit of the Ministry with responsibility for culture and creative industries. So when we began this journey, it was about the establishment of an organization that would facilitate the production and delivery of events. And that's because, as a government, we recognize the value of culture in contributing to the stability, peace, and happiness of our people. Importantly, too, we saw the delivery or the opportunity to deliver national events in an organized and structured way for our people. And not only our people, but for visitors to our shores. We also recognize the tremendous value that events brought to the table, and it was important for us to ensure that we have an agency that had the resources and capacities to deliver with efficiency and effectiveness the production and delivery of events across the country. We know that visitors to our shores are looking for an authentic St. Lucian experience. And it is important for us to capitalize on the economic potential of the many festivals and events that we have, particularly given our colorful past and history. Now, we did, in the planning process, when we began this whole process, very early, we sought to inform that we were learning, we were growing, and to inform that the structure of Events St. Lucia was not cast in stone. That was very clear. Our initial report had identified and proposed an initial, medium, and long-term structure so that it was always the intention to visit the structure of Events Company of St. Lucia. We are operating in a very dynamic environment, and our new directional thrust calls for a restructured organization that will facilitate greater efficiency and effectiveness in the delivery of national events. We need an organization that will maximize and take advantage of the improvements that my government made to the legislative environment for events. As you know, we have just passed, or recently passed, the Fiscal Incentives Amendment Act to ensure that the services sector can now access concessions to facilitate their business. It means, therefore, that there will be a greater level of competition for services in all areas and other agencies, and so our agency, too, must set the tone to embrace that ethos. There must be structure, and we must embrace this. When I say structure, there must be a restructured organization to embrace this new ethos that we are trying to build. As a government, we believe in continuous development and staying relevant. And so we need to consistently re-engineer ourselves. And as citizens too, we need to consistently re-engineer, we need to consistently learn, we need to consistently build on who we are to capitalize on the opportunities that culture and tourism present to our country. The coming together of the Ministry of Culture and the Ministry of Tourism in the last 8 months provided even greater opportunity for us to create a marriage to ensure stronger economic impact and the fusion of these two ministries. With the fusion of these two ministries, my government is embarking on detailing a policy and strategy for events. We realize that our events environment has grown exponentially, in the past few years. And you would all agree, I mean, within the last 3 years, there have been an increase in the number of events happening around St. Lucia. And so restricting events in Lucia is timely to support the development of our events policy, to provide a stage for showcasing local talent and bringing visitors to our shores. You will also appreciate that this is time sensitive, but we need to ensure that any restructuring would minimize the planning, would minimize would minimize the effect on planning of our major events. This strategy, of course, I spoke about earlier, our strategy, sorry, I made an error here, will be detailed in the coming weeks. And of course, the Cultural Development Foundation, the Ministry of Tourism, the St. Lucia Tourist Board, all of these agencies are now working together to ensure that we craft this new direction with respect to our events. And so we look forward to working with the entire nation. 2020, we anticipate, will be an exciting year for us, for St. Lucia and the events. And of course, we will continue to inform you, the media, and keep you abreast in terms of what's happening by way of events in St. Lucia. But this is clearly where we are headed. We have to revisit our environment. We've done so, and of course, as anything else, we must restructure our organization to ensure that it's in keeping with the times, with the motions, with the new changes within the legislative framework around events for St. Lucia. And of course, the restructuring is absolutely necessary. And yeah, I'll take your questions at this time. Yes.
Question is, as per the press release, we understand there's 9 out of 14 members of staff. Those who were temporary are the ones who will be having to reapply, will be sent home and having to reapply. My question is, were they aware that they were temporary from the onset of their employment with the events company?
Well, I think the critical thing for us is and right through the period of time that we've established this organization, we have made it very clear to everyone that it is a dynamic environment that we're in, and there'll be changes constantly as we go along. Because the event environment is not an environment that is rigid. It is very dynamic, and we have to adjust. In the last 3 years, like I said, we've had significant changes around events. We've moved from the Ministry of Local Government. We're now within the Ministry of Tourism, which calls for new dynamics, changing dynamics. We've also had improvements in the legislative framework around the events agency. So it's important for us to restructure and ensure that we are relevant as we look to meet our mandate as a government and, of course, for the people of St. Lucia. So it is important for us to restructure. And I think anybody in events would understand, the value of making sure that we have the shift and respond to the dynamics of the times. So I think the management and the board of events would have surely been able to communicate that effectively to the staff.
Okay. Amani Mathura, Choice TV. We know it's 9 persons being impacted, but we haven't received the information on which 9 positions specifically. Can you speak to that?
Well, like me, I don't have the 9 positions specifically because I think within the pool of staff at Events in Lucia, there's a good cross-section of talent. And so once the assessments are done in terms of the skill sets and the competencies that it would require, I am sure across the 14 staff members who were there, the arrangements would be made to take them in. But there are new positions that are created, and of course, people would need to fill those positions. And the staff are welcome to apply if they have the competencies and capabilities to be able to do so. That's an opening that is there for them.
Ma'am, I just want to go back to the earlier question because I'm not completely satisfied with the response because you said that they would have communicated that it's a dynamic environment, but I don't equate that to telling them that your employment here is temporary because according to the press release, it did say a temporarily employed staff. So again, the question is, were they aware that they were temporary or were they just aware that their jobs could be, it can change at any point?
Well, I think, Miguel, in any organization, when you set on building an organization, it's always important for you to review and re-engineer. Given the dynamics of the events in St. Lucia, not in St. Lucia, globally as well, there's always need for you to revisit what you're doing and find better and more efficient ways of delivering services to the people. And so the restructuring of events should not have been a surprise for the staff. I'm very surprised that it is a surprise because I think from day one we've set out on this journey with persons knowing full well that there'll be changes constantly in this dynamic environment for events. And we were building this industry. We're building an orange economy in St. Lucia. And the government, of course, looking at the environment, looking at the legislation, and trying to ensure that whatever we do as a country falls within the ambit of ensuring that our people benefit we maximize the benefit for the people of our country. So I don't think anybody in events would think that it is a permanent position. I think if you are in events, you understand that this is a very fluid environment and there are changes that will come. And of course, if we don't upgrade ourselves, if we don't upskill ourselves, if we don't look to broaden and multitask in other areas, then the time will run off on us. But we have to be flexible, we have to be open, we have to be constantly improving, you understand, who we are and what we deliver to ensure that we remain relevant in these times. So restructuring in the industry is something that happens regularly and often, but I think it's important for us to understand this is not the government service where you get a permanent job. This is an events company that has to be relevant and to deliver the mandate that the government decides with respect to events in St. Lucia. So you have to be relevant, you have to be consistently evolving and growing to remain a part. And that's why we're giving the staff the opportunity to reapply for the positions which they think that they can hold.
So we understand that there was a need for the restructuring, but I'm just wondering, in terms of the way it was carried out, were other options considered where a restructuring could have perhaps been done without so many positions being made redundant?
Well, I would leave that for the technical people to decide, because as you fuse jobs and you marry positions and you look now in an environment that is open for business to outsource more services, it's just the nature of the business, my dear. I can't speak to that technically, but perhaps Events St. Lucia can clarify that for you. But I just want you to know that it is a very dynamic environment when you're doing events, and when you're doing events to the magnitude that we're feeling the impact as a nation. You saw what happened to the carnival and the explosion of events around our carnival this year. You've seen the results of the events that we are doing and what the patrons are looking for. I think it's a big industry. And to be honest with you, I think the staff really should have no fear because this market is very open and budding, and there'll be lots of opportunities available to them.
Yes. Will this move augur, or does it denote a sort of reduction in the number of events, national events for next year? Is that what it represents?
No, I don't think so. I think we move into greater efficiency and effectiveness, so it calls for us to revisit the events, or we have revisited the events that we are going to be portraying next year, and come early January, we'll be unveiling to you exactly what that plan for events is, and of course the events that we'll actually be delivering to you and the timelines for each of those events.
We saw events company created after the St. Lucia Tourist Board. After a similar situation, will we see that for this current situation with a new entity coming about with the restructuring of events company?
I'm a little lost. Yes.
What else is considered this restructure? What other aspects?
Will we see another entity being created?
Oh, you mean the change of name?
Yeah.
The change of name?
Yeah.
No, I think the events company is an appropriate name for the production company. I don't envision us. I think in the rebranding that we'll be doing, we'll probably be changing the name of some of our events, if anything. But I think generally, as an organization itself, focused on the production and delivery of national events, that organization will be there. So I'm not aware that we're thinking of changing at all events company of St. Lucia. But branding some of the events, I'm sure we will make some changes there in terms of the name of some of the events.
Ma'am, is there any truth to suggestions that the events company has been unable to make quite a number of its financial commitments in terms of service providers for many events who have not claim have not been paid? Is this is the financial situation of the organization one of the overarching factors which influencing this restructure? And if there's any more factors that are taken into consideration, could you tell us,
Yeah.
please?
Well, I think Event St. Lucia, of course, is an arm of the government of St. Lucia. And so when you're managing the people's money, it's always important that you do a good job of it and account effectively to them. I must say, in terms of that aspect, that will always be a consideration in terms of your purse and your ability to deliver and deliver effectively. And that's why it's important for us, looking at what we have available to us nationally, to bring everything into play within the organ, look at the organization to see how best we can maximize the few resources that we have. We don't have an infinite purse, for events, and we have to be able to tap in and bring in partners to assist us to be able to deliver some of these events effectively. And when they come to the table, they need to come with substance as well. So we need to look at all of those dynamics to ensure that we do it well. But the good thing is, I think the government is extremely conscious of this, and I think we're making the changes around the legislation and around the institutions, to ensure that we get the synergies that we want to realize the goals that we want for our people, and that's important.
Okay. Finally, a number of reasons have been put forward. There are going to be changes with events in Lucia, but I think over the past it's 2.5 years. Let's say 2.5 years, 2017 to now, will be enough time for you could give us a preliminary evaluation on the performance of events in Lucia. Would you say that they obviously there's a restructure, so they did not perform as expected. So what failures or did you note deficiencies in the operations of events in Lucia, which do you believe would cause restructure of the organization?
Yeah. Well, I think the key with events in Lucia is that the environment is very dynamic. And you have to understand that. When we started off, we were part of the Ministry of Local Government. Now we are within the Department of Culture and Creative Industries. When we started off, there was no Fiscal Incentive Act for persons within the service sector. Now we do have that. So it means that you'll have more people in the business offering their services at very competitive prices. And so perhaps the price you'd pay for a staff member can now come in and to be outsourced for maybe lesser amount of money. So you have to consider all of those dynamics within the scheme of things to ensure that you have an organization that is buoyant, thrives, and gives you what you want, and gives you value for money. In terms of the delivery of events, I was one of the strongest advocates for my team. I think the level of commitment we saw in terms of delivering events across St. Lucia was phenomenal. They worked well. They did work well. And I think hats off to them for doing that. But that does not mean to say we cannot look at our organization and see what we can do better. And that is the important thing. We must always look to see what we can do better as a citizenry and not get comfortable by just sitting in our space and not making the changes that we must make. We must make these changes now. If we don't, the organization will die because it's a different environment, it's a different dynamics, it's changing. And so we have to make those changes. And all I ask is for people to embrace the change and, more importantly, always keep in the back of their mind that there's something called continuous improvement within organizations. I'm an advocate for continuous improvement. We need to ensure that we step up every time and be better at what we deliver. And so events in Lucia have done well, but we believe they can be better. And so we'll structure to get us in that better place. Every time we have to, we will. Make those changes. We're not afraid to make that change. Creole? Oui.
Okay, Madam Minister, Prime Minister Hutchinson, GIS, au fait annoncement concernant le changement qui a été fait et puis une industrie qui a gardé la situation culture, activation, développement chaque qui a fait cette Lucia, ça fait musique, ça fait art, culture, comme ça. Et organisation ça là, ou dit besoin de changement après ça. Bon, ça moi qu'à comprendre en ça collègue moi m'a dit que m'a dit là, c'est situation monde qui peut perdre travail au résultat du développement ça là. Ou expliquer ça en anglais, nous voulons expliquer ça en créole pour faire pour monde savent développer qui importance ça ni en changement ça là et qui qualité l'avantage ça qu'a mené by c'est monde qui peut perdre travail au résultat de ça. Est-ce que la pièce en changement place pour soulager situation ça là?
Bon, vous m'avez dit une question, je mon vocabulaire pour pas ou réponse là en créole. Mais tout ça, moi, ça dit, gouvernement, nous établi, Events in Lucia établi en 2016. Et puis, depuis là, nous avons assess qu'on nous, you know, tous les années, on peut assess ça au café, qui manière au café, et côté au aller. Actuellement, nous vivons un environnement là, côté nous pour faire ces changements, pour faire organisation là, plus meilleur, plus bon, pour faire ça fait plus bien. Et puis, c'est ça pour ça qui fait nous faire ces changements, nous faire. Mais ces changements, ça ni pour faire parce environment, qui m'a dit environment là a changé. Et que nous pas rester même manière nous parce que là ni plusieurs monde nous qui ni plus bon talent et qui fait bail plus meilleur passer nous tout. So nous ni pour embrasser yo et que qui manière nous ça fait une organisation qui ni bonne force beaucoup why à pays pour ces monde ici benefit, how you say benefit? Pour tout be bénéfice là. So c'est ça qui fait nous faire ces choses moi ça. Bagay oli nous ka changer, mais nous pas ça rester même manière, nous tout ni pour la j'ai qu'on nous et ver ça qu'a fait là et manger qu'on nous pour faire marcher plus bien et pour nous choisir un bénéfice là. You understand my part? I know I'm horrible at that, but yeah, I tried. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We seem not to have any further questions from the press. And we want to thank Senator the Honorable Fortuna Belrose for coming and detailing the latest developments at the Events Company of St. Lucia, Inc. Coming to you live from the studios of the GIS NTN, I'm Lucia Joseph. Thanking you so much for joining us.